and I'm going to show you some marker techniques that I've been using on this particular image. I've already done the hair and the face. I may come back to it to refine it a little bit more, but I'm using vellum paper so that the marker will blend nicely. You have to be a little bit careful about getting like really wet edges on from the marker, because these Copic markers tend to be have a lot of ink in them, so they tend to spread. So you have to be a little bit careful about that. Right now I'm working on these feathers, and I started by laying in a lighter color over the whole area, and now I'm going in with more and more darker colors to add in definition and detail. So I've started with a neutral gray. I started with this N2 neutral gray color, and then my next step is this N5 neutral gray. So I'm just going to go in. I've got my line drawing underneath the vellum right now. If I stuck a piece of white paper underneath, the lines themselves would go away and you would just see the marker part. If you have the outline in there already, that's fine. I will likely go in and add some of that line work after I'm finished with the color addition. So with this, again, I'm using that line work, and I just want to add some shadow mostly into this, where the light area is going to be the highlight of the feathers. It's a lot easier to add darker colors on top of light with marker, so I'm more careful with where I place that and can use the lighter color as the highlight later on. So you'll notice that you're kind of limited by the tip of your marker. The lighter you can press down, the lighter of a line, or the thinner of a line you're going to get. If you press down kind of hard, you're going to get these sort of wormy shapes. So in order to not get the worms, you have to either spread it out, be a little bit more specific with the shape, and practice a little bit of a lighter touch so you can get a thinner line on there. I'm not paying really close attention to the where the shadows are going. For the most part, I'm just kind of rounding them out using the edges of these feathers as my guides. When they're all put together, they're going to have a nice effect. And right now I'm erring on the side of not applying too much, so I can come back in later and add a bit more if I feel like there's too much highlight there. The areas that are overlapping are going to be darker, because that's where the shadow will be. And I kind of lose the image at the edge, so I'm just going to make that up. So after I have that layer, then I'm going to go to my next, skipping a couple numbers, going to N8 for some of these even darker applications. Mostly this is going to be to help delineate one line from another. So this is going to be more that underneath dark color, and just so that it's not kind of a blob of color, I can kind of let it radiate out just a little bit. And then I also want to pick up just a few hints here and there along those lines. feathers are fairly forgiving because I can be a little bit more loose with the line work, and the sort of hatchiness, featheriness, if you will, works because it is little strands of feathers that come off of there. So again, a lighter touch is going to give me a thinner line. And I want these, you know, the feathers are in theory black feathers. I'm going with the idea that this bird here is kind of a crow, and she's taken on this crow as a persona. So I want these to appear to be black feathers, but the gray is going to allow the feather detail to actually be seen in there. Where there's an overlap, we want the piece that's underneath that overlap to tend to appear darker. You need a little bit more delineation up in here. And now you can kind of see that it's looking a little bit messy. So this is another reason why I like to do marker on vellum, because vellum is a slick paper, so the marker, the ink doesn't soak in, doesn't absorb into the paper as well, which is a blessing and a curse because it does tend to show lines a bit more. But if I go back with a lighter color, this time I'm going to use this N3. It's slightly darker than the base color, but still fairly light, and I can go back in and blend some of this while still being able to maintain some of that highlight color. So this is also taking away a little bit more of the highlight, which is good because I think there's probably too much. And if you have kind of a light touch, if you get some of those, that streakiness that these markers sometimes have, you can soften those and get some of that to go away if you're careful with how you blend that together. And here comes the cat. Kepler may make an appearance here in just a second. All right, so I'm going to go back to my medium color, my N5, and start the next row. Alright, I think that feels pretty good. Got a nice little bit of texture going on. They look mostly like feathers coming through on her shoulder there, these little dangly ones coming down. I haven't decided exactly what color I'm going to make her bodice, but I'll probably add in some color in there, but I will stop the video there and maybe start a new one on the next section. Thanks for watching.